Trina and Josh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trina Nishimura.
Oh, hi.
Sorry, and Josh.
Sorry. We probably should have been more formal about that.
Seattle puppet introduction.
Shiny.
Good first impression.
Squirrel. Sorry.
Everybody having a good time? Good first day, nice and chill, relaxed.
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Thank y'all for coming by.
Yeah. Yes.
Taco Titan panel. Everybody see season 2? Got a few. Most seems like most.
Are you on? I guess people can hear. No, you can.
Testing 1, 2. Yeah, there we go. Come on in, have a seat. Oh, it's that guy. Hi.
Thanks, Josh.
Good to see you again.
Hello. Can I take your backpack and put it on the chair?
Sure.
Oh, I didn't call you boob. It sounded like I said boob. What's up, boob? I'm totally okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Attack on Titan panel with Attack on Titan people.
Hi, Mommy. Good to see you. Sorry.
How's it going?
Good man, how about you?
I didn't even know.
My name is Tom Grimm. I'll be your skipper today as we visit the actual spot for back in 1974 that battled for Jaws of this poor innocent islanders. Now, if you look over on your right, you see those happy. I'm just kidding. I used to be a Jaws boat skipper. That's my stall material for everything. So my Apple Watch just died because it's been a day.
It's okay.
So you guys are not allowed to speak to them for another 30 seconds because it's still 5:59.
Oh.
Now, a couple of disclaimers before we start this panel. Number one, please do not make direct eye contact with Trina. If you ask her a question, you speak immediately, sit down, don't say anything else. Josh, it's okay. As a matter of fact, Josh, you can throw stuff at the stage. He's fine with that. I'm kidding. Don't throw stuff at Josh. That said, Danielle will be your moderator for this. We've done how many shows this year? It's like, what's the end of the year? Thank God. Yes. So every single show I put in a tech request, and every single show, this is 9 shows with Fan Expo so far, they have gotten the tech request wrong. This is the first show they got the tech request wrong, right. So we are treating this like a, you gotta translate my old person speak. What's a recent reference for Donahue? Dr. Phil, man. Does Dr. Phil go in the audience? Does Dr. Phil actually go in the audience? So in the 80s, there was a talk show called Donahue, and Donahue had a microphone, and it was a wireless mic, and he'd come in and be like, if you have a question, raise your hand, and he'd walk up to you. So that's the format we like doing. So Danielle is going to be Phil Donahue. Give Danielle a round of applause. To answer your questions regarding fighting on giants, or something, I'm not familiar with the show. Is it on Fox?
It's on Cartoon Network.
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's a show called Attack on Titan. It's about giant, naked, genitalless monsters.
And what's funny is just Trina and I work together and she doesn't know I'm messing with her.
Oh no, I do.
Oh yeah, you were looking serious enough. I'm like, oh, she doesn't know what I'm doing. Oh, I blew it. Never mind. I thought she was just serious enough that I was like, oh God, no, Trina. Of course, I watch all the stuff ahead of time. I don't want to be that jerk that walks in and goes, oh yeah, it's this.
Acting.
Acting. That was acting. But I have not watched season 2. I will admit that right now. Yeah, so I'm going to leave the panel because I don't want to be spoiled. So that said, please give our guests a warm welcome. Since it's after 6, I think it's time.
Ashton, if you want to sit down, Ashton, you can. You don't have to stand. Or if you want to come up here with us, this is Ashton. He escorted us over here. He's very, very nice. Super sweet. We love it! Isn't he so much more handsome than Ashton Kutcher? I think so. Josh thinks so. I'm sorry.
Oh shit! Oh, Krampus! Sorry, all your panel. Oh crap! It's Krampus!
There's a new panel.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I hope none of you have been naughty this year.
That is not terrifying at all. Oh, no.
The original Santa.
Oh no. Okay. No, that's fine.
Actually, he looks like Grandpa Titan.
Oh yeah!
Not with horns.
Santa Claus Titan with horns.
Oh please tell me. Eat my friend Aaron again.
Eat my friend Aaron again. We're good with that. Right? No, you don't need to come up here. No.
I've been good.
I am not.
Armin is a good boy.
I am not giving it that back. I know Kung Fu.
Armin's a good boy.
Hey, that was not scary at all. Nope.
So like, jingle, jingle comes the Krampus.
Is that a song?
No.
It is now. It is now. Right. I'm sorry. We're babblers.
No, you're fine.
We're babblers.
Well, how do you guys want to do this then? Do you want to?
Yeah, Donna, you it up, man. Let's get crazy.
Yeah, if anybody has a question right out of the gate, raise your hand and she will come up and give you the microphone.
Rambling, babbling.
We will babble. We will babble ramble.
Ramble, babble.
Ramble.
Gramble.
Krampus.
No. That was terrifying.
That was really scary.
That was really scary.
Hello. What's your name?
I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
And first off, I want to mention Josh.
Yeah.
I just recently watched the first season of Yuri on Ice.
Oh, yay!
Oh my gosh, it is fantastic.
Isn't it just a freaking gorgeous show?
It is.
Like,
I was very apprehensive about it at first because I just like heard rumors of various things with the show and stuff like that. And once it was on Verve, I'm like, oh my gosh, I now have to watch it. And yeah, it was beautifully done. Fantastic job.
It's such a-
with your voice acting. It
oh,
was
thank you very
phenomenal.
much. Thank you very much.
The whole thing came together fantastically. But yeah, this is back on the Titan question.
Oh, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure.
In Yuri on Ice, who is Chicken Nugget? Not a thing, bro. Not a thing.
It's totally a thing. Every time I do it.
I'm sorry.
See, she says it's a thing.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a character. They call it.
Oh, yes, his rival.
Me.
Yes, yes. I forgot that was the nickname that they gave him to make fun of
Oh,
him.
yeah, he just told me about
Yeah,
it.
I just remember Yuri though.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, of course,
Gotcha.
he's amazing.
Here's my second question.
Okay.
For season 2, this is a very simple question, I guess. What was probably the biggest challenge you had in your voice acting for the new season compared to the first season? Was there like more strenuous voice parts or?
What is that? Your thinking face?
Yeah, that's
Or any characterizations that we developed
Oh,
to change
sure.
the way you presented?
for the second season. Like, I guess if I can consider anything a vocal challenge for this, because like Armin didn't really Armin wasn't very strenuous in this season compared to the first season. My voice has just been I've done a lot more deeper voice roles over the past couple of years, and some of them really heavily screamy and stuff like that. So my voice has kind of gone down in pitch from where it naturally was because of that. So getting back to the Armin voice was a little bit of a challenge, but other than that, it was actually much easier compared to the first season.
Yeah.
By you?
Oh my god.
I know him and Zaka had a lot of very
Yeah.
emotional moments.
Yeah. So I think as far when we started or when we got the call that like season 2 had finally come through, I was super excited. And because there was so much screaming in the first season, that very first recording session, I didn't book anything for the first 2 days before it, and I didn't book anything for the next day because I was like, I need to rest my voice. This is going to be amazing. It's only been 4 years that I've been waiting for this, so it's fine. So I was like really excited, and I was trying to be like cool about it. And I went in and I was like, all right, it's Megacon's day! And I was so excited, and they're like, I can sum up the entirety of episode 1, season 2, and my lines. Would you like to hear it?
Please.
Aaron, I like this scarf. And that's it. That's all I did for episode 1. It was the worst. But I think for me it was super easy too. I mean, battle cries and screaming and all of those things I love because they're so cathartic and it's just like wah, you know. I save all of my traffic anger for those screams. Yeah, so it just wasn't. I feel like it was so much easier this season because it was. I mean, the 3 main kids still are in the show, but the character development for all the other characters and all of the side plot lines and everything. But emotionally, for Mikasashi, I think she had a lot more growth this season.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then there's like the last episode where stuff happens, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's real cute.
Thank you.
Like real cute. Thank y'all. I don't know what this voice is.
That's like a surround guy.
That's a surround guy. Oh, what is that called again? What is that called again?
Isn't it just vocal?
No, it's like, oh my god. Is it vocal fry?
Yeah, I think it's just.
Oh, sorry.
I just have a general question. My name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Can we do that the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I tell the story the same way every time. I had the very good fortune of falling into acting when I was really young. My mother kind of put me into theater as a way to keep me from ruining her fine linen while I made costumes, so I could ruin other people's linen at the theater. And I also loved cartoons and just any form of animation from the time I was really young. And I jokingly say my first words in this world were DuckTales woohoo, but it could be true. And the two just kind of eventually married. Like growing up, doing mostly just community theater, a lot of musical theater and stuff. Like I loved it, and that's kind of where I really honed my comedic timing when it came to performance and stuff. But I found myself very limited by theater, kind of pigeonholed, because you do kind of get cast by your physical type, how tall you are, how big you are. It will kind of shoehorn you into just very specific roles. But with voice, you have a lot more freedom, just depending on what you can do with that. And so, like, eventually, when I realized, oh wait, Donald Duck isn't real. That's just a dude doing his voice. That's a job. It's like I want that job. And so I just kind of sought it out and fell in love with anime around the time that Pokemon hit and became mainstream. And that's when me and my brother got into it. And, I became a little more addicted than he did, and found out when I was in high school that Funimation was about an hour and a half south of where I grew up, and ADV was about 2 or 3 hours south of me, and I just kind of saw which one I could find some content info for first, and got my way in, did an audition, and they liked me enough they kept using me, and here I am 14 years later.
Dang! 14 years?
Mm-hmm. Started in it will be 14 years in January. I started in January of 2004.
On what show?
Wedding Peach for ADV.
Wow! I didn't know that was your story.
Yeah.
That's a good story, bro.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, just the fact that it worked out that way.
I've never known you without a beard, so the entire time he was telling that story, I was imagining like you, but like a smaller you with a beard, like watching DuckTales.
My whole family.
It's just with the beard. My story is really similar, actually.
Okay.
I've never met anybody that started it, because usually there's no one way to get into voice acting or acting or anything. It's usually a crapshoot. Can I say that?
Yeah.
It's usually a crapshoot. I was 9 and started performing, so I started at my local community theater as well. I auditioned for Annie, why I thought they would cast a Japanese girl as Annie. I don't know. I was like, I can do it! That's a theater reference, that was a song. Not well sung though. So I auditioned for Annie, not cast, shocking. I could have been a great orphan, I could have. I was hungry all the time, because I am hungry all the time. I was eventually cast in a show, I think it was Oliver. They were like, all right, you can't be an orphan. Street urchin, sure. I'm an orphan, doesn't matter. So I started touring professionally when I was 13 with the theater company. Why my mom was like, oh yeah, this is fine, like go ahead. I don't know. I think it's just because she was a single mom and had 4 kids. Was like, please take one of them. Just take her, please, for the love of God. And so then I just was acting from a very early age. And I loved it. It's just playing pretend. It's what I've always wanted to do and be until I got to college, at which point I was like, real world, I'm gonna be a lawyer. That's funnier to me. I'm gonna do it. So I was in college and I was broke, because that's your job in college, is to be broke, and I was very good at it. And a friend of mine told me about an audition at Funimation. He was an audio engineer. And I was like, no, Jimmy, I'm not gonna do that. I'm a grown-up now. I don't act anymore. I'm gonna be a lawyer. He was like, it pays. I was like, when is it? And I auditioned, and the bug bit, the acting bug, bit me again, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll do this for a while. And then a while turned into 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. It's crazy how it happens. Yeah. And then you like wake up and you're like, people are like, what do you do for a living? And it's like, I do voices. And they're like, what does that mean? Like cartoon voices. Well, have I seen any of your stuff? Do you watch cartoons? No.
many projects.
How many voices do you have in your head?
Right. Well, with us up here together, I think right now we have 30 voices on stage right now at least.
In general. How many shows have you done? You're in the plus 200, right?
Yeah, plus 200.
Yeah, me too. I stopped counting a long time ago.
Yeah.
Somebody else was like, oh, you've done over 200 voices. I was like, dang, that's crazy. What else do you say?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I can't even, I can't math even, so like how many, I can't math, so like how many shows a year does that average after, 13, 14 years, but like now, like you do just kind of start to lose track after a while, just how many, and sometimes, like very rarely will you ever do more than one character in the show, but like, on the rare case, especially if you're doing like Walla and stuff, then like you might play multiple characters, but like once it gets to the point where you're just doing one at a time, it's like, well, we've done over 200 individual shows. Good God, really? Okay, well, I guess this is my career now.
I feel like there was a kid that came up. He was so cute. Is he here? I think his name was Samuel. He's like 19, and he was wearing like the khaki shorts and like the belt, and he was like really put together. He was like, let's take care of business first. I'll take 2 autographs. Isn't he so cute? So he was so cute. He was like, hey, have you been in, or were you in this show? And I was like, I don't know. And I pulled out my reference cards, because I have reference cards, because I can't remember anymore. I was like, I don't know. I feel like I was. So I pulled it out, and I was like, yeah, that's me, that girl there. His name escapes me. But that's me. Otherwise, she wouldn't be on this card. He's like, oh my gosh, you were the main character? I was like, yes! Of course! I remember that very well. He's like, will you do a line? I was like, yes! Can I Google it? Yeah, that's random. So,
I love it,
over 400 shows together.
Together, yeah.
How many shows have we been on together? The first show we did together was Maken-Ki, for sure.
That was my very first show.
Yay, Maken-Ki!
His first show at Funny.
You were so nice. He was so nice when I first met him. He's like, hi, I'm Josh. I can meet you. I was like, why are you being so nice? Like, we're all from, you're so nice. So nice. Great guy.
Happy to be, we get to live with our imagination.
Right?
Yeah.
So, we get paid for the voices in our head.
Indeed.
Most people get committed.
We scream at television, and they're like, here's a check.
That's an excellent way to describe yourself. Next time somebody's like, what do you do? I'm going to be like, I scream at televisions for a living.
So what, so you're in politics?
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
My name is Jose.
Hi, Jose.
Yeah, so, what is the strangest fan experience?
What's our greatest fan experience?
No, what's the strangest?
The strangest.
fan experience. I don't think I really have strange.
Baloney. You don't have a strange one? Are you being nice?
I'm being nice. Okay, no. The very first one that ever happened to me, the one that it's always the one that pops into my head, it really wasn't all that strange, but like it was after my first lead role in a show, which was for a show called The Wallflower, that was done by ADV back in like 2007, 2008, and we premiered the first 3 episodes of the dub at MegaCon in Houston. And the creator from Japan flew out for it and everything, and it was just a whole big deal and like really cool. After we did the first couple of episodes, I left, the panel room and after the premiere and everything, and I was walking around the con. I went to the dealer's room, and I was talking to a friend of mine. And as I'm sitting there talking to her, I suddenly feel 2 hands come around and clasp really hard, like around my gut. And I just look over and I just see this head of just really brown curly hair, and I thought it was my handler. I was like, oh hey, what are you doing? And I just hear this voice I did not recognize go, hugging Keo, hey? And oh, that's what's happening. And turn around and just like, yeah, it's really nice to meet you. Did that whole thing, and she was really sweet or whatever. And it's like, okay, very nice to meet you. And as she walks away, she goes, I'm gonna stalk you when the DVD comes out. And I was like, oh, thanks for the warning. Never saw her again. So
you never saw her, so she's doing her job
she's
well.
doing it very well. She's back there right now. How about you?
So my strangest fan experience, it was so I was at a convention. It was like maybe my second convention ever, I was in Philadelphia, but just outside of Philadelphia, in a small little suburb called King of Prussia, which at first I didn't believe was a real place, but it is. And Johnny Young Bosch was there with his band, I Shine. He's very talented, and I Shine is amazing. So great guy. And it's the first time I'm meeting him. And number one, he's Johnny Young Bosch. And number two, he was a Power Ranger. So he's super fit, like really handsome, and I was single at the time, so I was like, hey, I'm Trina. Does this do anything for you? It didn't, he's married, that's great. But, so I met him and he was like, hey, because the convention had planned for about like 1,500 people and 5,000 had showed up.
Wow.
And they had, this is back in the day when before laptops, like they had like one of those old like square Mac computers, and they were checking everybody in one by one. And like it was winter and it was snowing and it was cold, and people had been lined up since 5 in the morning and it was insane. The computer went down, so they were just standing out there, and there were so many people that they called the police, and the police were like, we need SWAT to come out to like help crowd control or something. I was like, SWAT? Like what are they gonna do? Like, do we need SWAT? Do I need to go home? Is this place safe? But Johnny was like, hey Trina, we're gonna go outside. We're gonna sign some autographs for all the people waiting, just to keep them calm, it's gonna be awesome. And I was like, I don't think anybody's gonna, he was like, we're going. I was like, that's amazing, yeah, yeah. So bad. I have no game. So they gave me this clipboard and a Sharpie, right? So we go outside, and I'm kind of a jerk, and so I like when people are like, oh, let me escort you. No offense, Ashley. Like when people are like, let me escort you, I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about it, which I've since stopped doing because I was like, yeah, Johnny, you go over there and you sign, no big deal. And so like, you know when you're in a crowd and it's so crowded and you're like touching people and then it starts moving and you're just like, and I'm not that big, so I was just like, yeah, this is fine.
Guess I'm going this way.
Yes, this is fine. And like, I sign a few, and then like people stop asking for autographs because they just start like moving. And like, if you have a clipboard and you're in a sea of really angry people, it looks like you know what you're doing. And so like, the fans are great. The fans are always great. But you know who doesn't like waiting in line outside since 5 in the morning while it's snowing with their babies? Mothers. And it's like the mom radar went off. They were like, over there is a clipboard and a lady. And they like swarmed me, and so they're all screaming at me, and they're like, we need to get in, and it's cold out here. We don't have IDs for our children, they're children. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I don't know what to do. And like, and like now it's getting raucous. Like these moms are angry. I feel like I'm gonna get decked by a mom. And like we're moving and they're screaming and it's awful. And then like I run into a wall of a human being, like just giant dude in like full SWAT gear. And I turned around and I grabbed his vest and I was like, my name is Trina Nishimura and I need to go inside. And he took his mask off and he goes, can I have an autograph?
But did you make it out though?
Did I make it out? No, I didn't. I was like, I just started screaming for Johnny. I was like, Johnny! Johnny! That I can do. I can scream for him. So, yeah, I was eventually like the promoter found me. She's like, what are you doing out here? I was like, I don't know. And she like brought me back inside.
How long have you been doing cons?
That was like my second convention ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful, man.
I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're okay.
I'm glad you're okay. It was also when I was like, you know, like 40, 50 pounds lighter, and like, oh, remember my fur face? What's wrong? It doesn't matter. Yeah, so, great question. I'm sorry?
Black fur?
Well, I used to have a black fur, yeah. I love black fur.
Yeah, anime Boston.
Oh, I loved that fur vest. And I had that little blue dress with it. I remember things because of my outfits. But yeah, I had this really great, you guys don't care. I got hit by a cab that day.
Wait, was that the Boston? That was the Boston.
Yeah,
that we did. Yeah, that we did time
Remember
for.
when I was dating that awful guy who ended up being a racist? That was awful. You would think when you're like, hey man, yeah, we could totally go out. Aren't you a racist? Because you say some stupid jokes. And he's like, no, they're just jokes. Turns out.
What do you know?
Oh, it's like do you know my last name? But yeah, that was, yeah. Any other questions? Sorry. You guys have questions because we'll just keep talking.
We will gab.
We'll gab.
We'll gab it.
Gabber.
Oh yeah,
Hi, honey.
I'm sorry, sweetie. I can't do the screen.
It's really physically challenging to do the screams and stuff.
I can do the speech.
Oh yeah, the speech.
I'll do the speech. All right, go. Armin Arland. That's how I get into care. I just say his name. Like, I am a soldier, and I have dedicated my heart to the restoration of humanity, sir. Nothing could make me prouder than dying for such a noble cause. If we use his titan ability with the manpower we have left, I believe we can do it. We can retake this city for humanity's glory, and what little time I have left to live, I will advocate his strategic value. That's easier to do than the scream. The scream, like, it's fun. I love doing that, but I learned really quickly after the first couple of cons that especially if I do that on the first day, I will not talk to anybody the rest of the weekend. So I'm really sorry. I wish I could. Thank you for understanding.
Sometimes people are really mad about it. They're like, you don't want to do the scream for me? Really? I waited in line. And he's like,
Where's the clipboard?
I'm going to talk to somebody about this. I imagine you imagining you at various points in your life, but you as like a prepubescent teen with the beard, and then Armin's voice like cracking and it's amazing. I bet you were real awkward.
Oh my God, yeah. I still am when I talk about
That was awkward too. That was awkward times.
Well, I have a question.
Yes!
Obviously, you guys have a lot of different characters that you play, a lot of different roles. I wanted to know, for either of you, is there any particular instance or line that you had to say where it just had to keep being repeated, or it was just like not quite right, and to the point where you're like, I can't say this line anymore? Have you had any struggles with stuff like that?
dancing around.
You're dancing around it. That's what people say. You're dancing right around it, like when you just said it like 18 times.
It's like, we almost got it.
One person in particular says that. One director in particular will you'll do like 25 takes on a line. It's like, split the difference. Little more, little less. Split the difference. Dancing right around it. Not quite yet. You knock off the mic? We got some mouth noise on that one. Like, what?
Okay, look at me. Make this face.
Make this face!
It's like, it's not working because you're not doing the face. Look at my face. I miss him. Man.
Favorite line? Or weirdest line?
I can't think of any that necessarily. Off the top of my head, I can't just I can't think of any there where I just had to do them over and over again ad nauseum to the point where I was just like, I'm so sick of this line. I know there have been several like that over the course of my career, but I just can't think of them right now.
What was the strangest line you've ever recorded?
I don't know. I really don't know. Probably, I'm a sexy pork cutlet bowl.
I'm a sexy pork cutlet.
And that is what I sign more than anything.
What show is that?
Fury.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't remember that
You
line.
did say that multiple times in that show.
Yeah.
I'm a sexy pork cutlet.
Yeah, the whole point is when he's getting back into skating, his coach tells him that you need to find your eros, your sexuality, like your sexual energy. Find whatever it is in your life that kind of describes that. And he's racking his brain, and then one night he's eating pork cutlet bowl. He's just like, man, I would do anything. It's like there are just days where I would do anything for pork cutlet bowl. It's just like I crave it, I desire it That's what it is. That's what my Eros is. That's what my sexuality. I am a pork cutlet bowl. And so like this whole thing becomes I'm a sexy pork cutlet. And I'm a sexy pork cutlet femme fatale that enthralls men. And I'm just like, honey. And I have since then had pork cutlet bowl, and it is probably my Eros too. It's freaking tasty.
Awesome.
No. What about you? Any strange lines? Any ad
I'm
nauseam
trying to think.
lines?
So does Me have a sexy pork cutlet line? I don't think he does.
No, Me was mostly just kind of fanboying out about.
Yeah, he was. He didn't get any cool lines like that. I'm Me, by the way. Yeah, so.
Anything, was there ever a point with like, with Mikasa?
Oh, no, I have a weird one. All right, so the weirdest line I've ever said, I don't remember the line exactly, but it was in a WALA session. So WALA means, it's an inappropriate acronym, incorrect acronym. It means with all actors. So all of the background scenes that you guys see, like if you see the main characters in a market or at school, voice actors actually come in and play those characters that are in the background. So if you're in a market, then there like 3 or 4 people will be in the booth together, all being like, oh, I think I'm gonna get some apples today. It's gonna rain today. Oh. And then in WALA sessions, there'll be one-offs, right? Like TV announcer A, girl B, etc. So I was in a WALA session for a show called Shin-Chan, and the director, Zach Bolton, who's amazing, he was like, hey, does anybody do an Australian accent? I was like, I do. He was like, can you be an Australian grandmother? I was like, yes, I can. And he was like, do you have any issues being an Australian grandmother in a hotel room next to our main character who is experimenting in S&M? And I was like, so you want me to be an Australian grandmother dominatrix? He was like, yeah. And I was like, awesome, yes. I want to be that lady. And I was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the line though. I mean, I do, but there are kids in here. So.
Shin-Chan was rocked with.
So good. So good. Yeah. So, okay, who has a question, guys? Don't be shy. We ain't scared. We ain't scared. Everybody poops. It's a book.
He has a question as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Name's Larry.
Hi, Larry.
So, Attack on Titan question.
Yeah.
For your 2 characters, what was like experience in a new part of your character for the second season? Like Armin, first season was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
The second season we started seeing him more cocky.
Yeah.
And then Mikasa was kind of dead inside.
Bro, she saw her parents murdered right in front of her. Like, you'd be like, hey, I'm Mikasa. I feel great about life. Anybody else want to get some sherbet? Like, no, you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead. But the first season, like the second season, you saw her be more loving towards Aaron and show her like, okay, it's not this. I love you like we're brothers. Like I love you more. Like. So, but for those two characters, what was it like? For the 2 characters, what was it like expressing that or going through those changes?
Sure. Over the course of the first season, I think you hit it dead on. Mikasa's general attitude and her drive was to keep her familial unit together, her adopted familial unit, and everything, all of her motivation came from keeping the 2 of them safe. When I feel like the entire show can be summed up in the following, like Aaron being like, I'm gonna do this thing, and then Mikasa being like, yeah, we don't need to do that thing, and then Armin being like, Aaron, no. and then Aaron being like, I'm doing this thing. Like, I mean, oh, okay. Aaron, no. Yeah, like that's it. But yeah, so her, as far as the first season, most of it was just about keeping everyone alive, and then to see her grow and to see her change has been really exciting. To see, for her to have more dimension to her as a character has been really great. And it was challenging at first because I did view her in a very specific way. That she would never be with Aaron, and it would never be like a romantic thing, and it wasn't like, oh my god, I need a boyfriend, because we all saw Twilight, we know how that ends. But her devotion to them and her feelings changing, like some people are like, oh, how do you feel about that? Like now she does need a boyfriend and whatever, and it's like, no, I'm not. She hasn't changed who she is. She hasn't changed anything about herself, but she's evolved as a human, and I think that letting people evolve is really important. Even though it's really weird to like think of Bryce that way. Now,
Right.
It's weird. Bryce plays everybody. He's great. What about you?
I mean, and for Armin, I feel like the majority of his changes as a character so far happened in the first half, in the first season. His big defining moment was, just before the big speech when he realizes that, oh no, Aaron and Mikasa don't see me as this burden. They don't see me as, as a loser or a crybaby or a weakling or anything. They see me as someone who is calm, has their head on straight, and has a plan, knows what to do in any situation, and he just kind of realizes he's been his own worst enemy. That he's the only one who's been thinking these things about himself, and like from that moment on, like immediately you see him like, okay, well, I mean, if they believe in me, I believe in me. Let's do this. I think the growth that we start to see after that was, kind of like you say, he's a little more sure of himself. Maybe not necessarily cocky, but like he has gotten down to the point where he's not afraid to put forth an idea, even to the military command, just to be like, well, we could try this. But he still has that little bit of, not necessarily self-doubt, but he does keep himself in check whenever he does present a plan, to be like, look, this is what I got, could be the worst plan ever, I'm just saying it, but if you have something better, probably, let's go with that. But for who has not seen season 2? Okay, so but for the last part of season 2 that you saw, that's where I feel like his growth really happened.
Because I think it was, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I know, me neither.
It's the episode towards the end where
yes.
facing the.
So it harkens back to in the first season, where he's talking about, he says the line, to rise above monsters, we must abandon our humanity. What we fight, we become. And this is the moment where he kind of realizes that that's true. And that's where that growth comes from. And I feel like, because I do the narrator for the voice for the show as well, and so I think the general idea is that Armin is the one who is telling this story. And while we were recording that, we kind of realized the narrator voice is the same voice that Armin's using as he's saying these lines. Like, this is that moment where the Armin that we've been listening to so far is the Armin after this huge redefining moment. And so, he's reached that now, and I just want to see where he goes from there, because we didn't really get to see the actual effects of that change yet. So you have to wait till next year.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Great buddy.
Yeah.
Alright, name's Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, kind of similar line in terms of recording strange lines. Was there any type of experience during a recording session, or maybe even outside of a recording session, that kind of stuck out for you? Like maybe a strange flubbed line, or maybe just a weird experience during it? Or
The first time seeing this Titan.
Yeah, stuff like that. Anything like that stuck out?
These are always the hardest questions for me.
Really? I got this a lot.
No, have it.
All right,
Take it.
so we record Funimation stuff in Texas. Texas is hot as F. I mean, it's not hot like here. It's dry heat. It's just super, super, super hot. And it doesn't help that Texas is so big. So there's highways everywhere. And there's concrete everywhere. It is a concrete jungle. Well, concrete retains heat. And it's also, if it's 108 degrees outside, it's actually 115, which is amazing for cooking eggs on a sidewalk, but not great if you're in a small padded room in a building surrounded by concrete that has no air conditioning. So it was the middle of the summer, and we've been doing 3 hours already, and it was so hot in there, and we had the oscillating fans. but they make noise, so we had to turn them off in between every take. So it'd be like, open the small booth that's like the size of a phone booth that's covered in foam in a room that has no air conditioning, in a building that has no air conditioning, surrounded by an oven, and like open the door, turn on the fan, it's like, and then like be like, and then turn off the fan, and then close the door, right? For your take. So I was like, you know what, guys? Like, I was in theater. I don't care. Give me some duct tape. And they gave me some duct tape, and I put my scarf because you always dress in layers when you record. So I put, because it might be hot or it might be cold or whatever. So I put my scarf over the small window, and I was like, all right, just don't come in here. And then I may or may not have taken some stuff off because it was hot, and I wanted to blast through this. And the faster we got it done, the faster I'd be out of there and in my car and in air conditioning. So I got naked, pretty much. I mean, I was wearing like undergarments, but I was like still sweating like a crazy person. And I was like in there, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. And they're like, yeah, I mean, whatever you need to do to get there, Trina. I'm like, it's gonna be amazing. and so like then you can kind of hear stuff outside of the booth if they're not pressing the button, because to communicate they press this button. And they're like, okay, we need that again. But all I heard was no. And then like this guy who's Justin opens, he's like a pretty important guy, and he opens the door, he's like, hey Trina, can I? I'm like, oh my God! Like, why are you naked? I was like, why are you in here? Funniest moment. What do you got?
That's my funniest. Was this the old?
Yeah, it was the prospect.
Oh, wow.
It was awful.
Was it always no air conditioning at that building? Or?
No, it had just broken.
Oh, man.
And they're like, you can still do this. I was like, yeah, I can. I'm hungry. I need to pay my rent.
And so now we're at the icebox of Texas. You know, that's like, it's like, because like the building we're in now, the room that they keep all their servers and stuff, it's not on a separate air conditioning system. So I mean, in order to keep the servers cool, they keep it at like 30 some odd degrees or whatever. So the entirety of the studio, no matter what time of year it is always like
freezing.
35, 40 degrees. So it could be the middle of summer, again, concrete jungle, 115 outside, and we're wearing hoodies.
Sweaters.
And sweaters.
Yeah.
One extreme to the next. We just don't have to get naked. You can if you want.
A few people have gotten naked.
At the Froster,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember hearing a story about one of the elderly gentlemen for Funimation doing that as well. Like,
Yeah.
taking everything off.
I bet he loved it smelling pretty gross. Too much? It's too much.
Not the question. Yes.
My name is Jonathan, and I was just wondering, like, what made y'all want to get into Attack on Titan for season 1 and 2 for the comeback?
It's like what made us want to get into it?
Yeah.
Dollar bills, dollar bills.
Besides the money and the rent paying and all that, but.
Well, I mean, I just because of the work that we do, we're working on so many shows all the time. It's very rare that we get an opportunity to kind of watch shows beforehand anymore. Like we did. Kind of the last thing you want to do after you've been working in, at the booth, in the booth for like 8 to 10 hours or working on a script or whatever, is watch more cartoons. But this is one of those shows that a lot of us had the opportunity to watch beforehand and really get to appreciate, like long before we ever knew that Funimation was even going to get the show. Mm-hmm. So like when the opportunity actually came along, it was like, oh, like that feeling of actually getting to go out and audition for something that you were already excited about, as opposed to coming in and reading for a show you may not have never heard of, or maybe weren't necessarily that interested in, but it's a job. This had a lot more electricity to it, and the fact that so many of us got to and be a part of that, which doesn't happen often. You don't very often get to be in the stuff you want to be in.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
It was so dope. Like I saw my brother told me about Attack on Titan before we knew that Funimation would even be recording it. And I watched the first episodes and I stopped in hopes that Funimation would get it or I'd be able to audition for it. Because personally for me, like I don't watch the shows ahead of time, which is my choice, my body, my choice. Yeah, so I didn't watch all of it, and it was kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because if I was cast, then to be in one of the most epic animes of all time. Like, I would have been comfortable being Girl B that's like smashed by a boulder in the first scene. That's cool. But if I didn't get cast, like, I was gonna marathon the entire first season, like in that really unhealthy way where your friends have to check on you, like, are you peeing? Have you showered?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
But yeah, so it is so rare that you like set your sights on a character and then you get it, or a show and you get it. As actors, we audition all the time, and you go into an audition and you give it everything you have. And at least for me, after I audition, like I have to wash my hands of it because otherwise I'm just like, are they going to call? 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 Like, we're not talking about my dating life. This is actually.
And you don't, sometimes it could be a couple of weeks before you hear, depending on how long the show runs and how long until the character that they actually are going to cast you as comes in. You may not hear anything for a couple of months, and for all you know, it's like, well,
I didn't book that.
and then it comes along. But like, yeah, there's a saying that you'll do 99 auditions before you book one, and it's so like a lot of times you're not going to know what those are. So when the one that comes along is thank you, when the one that does come along happens to be something that you're genuinely excited about, it's like Christmas. You can't really, it's kind of an indescribable feeling. It's just pure excitement.
Yes.
Somebody answer your phone.
Hi there, my name is Ken. Thank you for sharing about your craft. That's actually what was part of my question. So
Okay.
You've answered most of it, so we just asked this portion. As actors, as performers, what is your desire to be on the stage and be seen fully or be voiceover actors?
Well, they have their differences and they have their similarities. You are still putting yourself out there. Acting, no matter what form it is still it's kind of the same way as anybody who draws. You're still, in a way, you're bearing your soul, and you're putting yourself out there for other people to see you. It's the most vulnerable you will ever make yourself to people that you've never met before. It's really scary because you open yourself up to being judged and to.
And people like to judge.
Yeah, very quickly. So, for me, it's more about, and yes, like as any artist, I feel like we're all seeking that some form of validation for whatever we're doing. So whether I'm on stage or whether I'm in the booth or drawing something or writing something and putting it out into the world, I am hoping that it reaches somebody and that they appreciate it. And maybe get across what I'm trying to do, or at least think that I did a good job. But at the same time, this is what I wanted to do. This is the only thing that I could see myself doing and being happy. So, and on the one hand, yeah, what people think is really important to me, but on the other hand, I'm just doing what I love, and it's fulfilling. It's very fulfilling.
Agreed, 100% agreed. He's very smart. Yeah, it is the same, but if you're an actor, and most people that I know that are actors have known they were going to be an actor or wanted it their whole lives. So in any realm where you can play pretend, I mean, and if you get paid for it, that's like even more dope. Like, okay, like that's great. But yeah, it's the only thing. It's the only thing I could ever see myself doing or be, so it's pretty dope. I'm going to stop talking now so this handsome young gentleman can ask a question.
In season 2, does it show any in the episodes Captain Levi? And why don't the Scout Regiment attack the Titans in the trees when at night?
Well, that's smart.
No. Levi does show up a few times, and you know, I guess generally, yeah, it would be a great idea to attack them at night. But then, you know, have you seen season 2 yet?
Not all of it.
Okay. So depending on how far you're in, there's actually a really good reason why they ultimately realize that they can't attack the Titans at night. And in case you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to spoil it.
Well, I read a little bit on the manga that in the full moon, Titans started showing up because of the beast teaching. Is that one reason why?
Yeah. We're trying not to do any particular spoilers, like, because some people may not have seen season 2 or read the manga yet. But I will say that you're kind of in the realm.
So
But go watch the episode and find out.
And then you'll have to find us on Facebook and tell us what you think about the answer that we will not reveal.
What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin, thank you for your question.
Oh, lots of Kevins today.
Actually, he's my son.
Oh, that's awesome. Kevin was the name of the bird. Sorry. You haven't seen Hub. We're not friends. Yes. So do you have? Oh, who has social media or a handheld small device? If you would like to, if you would like to follow either Josh or myself, you can find Josh at
Josh Grelle on Twitter. Same on Facebook.
You can find me at Trina Nishimura, that's Nishimura, or Trina Nish on Instagram. And if you haven't heard of it yet, I would like to tell you a little bit about a thing called Anime Unlocked. It's really, really fly. Check it out on the App Store. Those are all my phones.
Just look for Unlocked on the App Store, and you can come and
chat with either myself or this handsome gentleman over here.
and many, many others.
And many, many others. We will now be returning to our table if you have any questions that you did not get answered.
Guys, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you had fun.